Hello, welcome back for another Britain's Hidden History, where we're going way, way, way back, and we're looking at the earliest forms of zodiacs, star signs, astrology, astronomy, and from that then we can look at, how people have moved, how ideas have moved, look for possible connections. Now, I don't know about you, I've always found this a very difficult subject. I didn't quite understand why we're so obsessed with tiny white dots in the sky. The terms are complicated, some of the ideas, and I found some parts of Wilson and Blackett's writing where they've done some amazing observations and connections between different zodiacs and religions around the world. It's a very important part of their work. And this introduction, for me anyway, once I could see how these things came together in a logical way and were born, it all becomes much, much easier and a much more accessible subject. So, without further ado, I'm going to read some of this. Okay, the root cause of almost every present difficulty in disentangling the records left to us by our ancient ancestors has been the inflexible determination of modern astronomers to totally and completely disassociate themselves from the ancient practice of astrology. We're all familiar with the fortune-telling aspects of the signs of the zodiac, and most of us know which sign of what constellation is the zodiac we were born under. We're all generally aware of the practice of many newspapers and magazines publishing weekly and sometimes daily predictions and forecasts of our futures. This has gone on from time immemorial, and the professional astronomers of the universities, the colleges and the institutes seem to be ever anxious to distance themselves from this generally harmless nonsense of your future in the stars. Good Welsh boy then, Russell. This separation of scientific astronomy and the quackery of astrology is a modern situation, and the too rigid approach of the stargazing professionals has obscured the very obvious fact that our ancient ancestors made scientific studies of the heavens and also practiced the unscientific art of prophesying and fortune-telling. So while it is legitimate or reasonable to remove the magical folklore aspects of ancient records, it's completely illogical to also ignore the records of what our ancestors around the world saw and recorded as facts. Every nation on every continent appears to have preserved clear memories of what can only be described as a Star Wars in the heavens. Over and over again, researchers have discovered the same basic underlying stories and memories of the same cosmic events in our solar system around our star, the Sun. The names given to the participants vary in the different languages and roles, and the motives ascribed to the participating gods that are planets, satellites, comets, asteroids, and moons are sometimes differently interpreted. Yet the messages are the same. These planets and great comets were seen as having life, as gods and goddess personalities, and as having identities and characters. Every ancient civilization, be it empire, kingdom, nation, tribe, or republic, all record changes in the order and the nature of the solar system. Planets that were seen as ruling planets were deposed and replaced by other ruling dominant planets. In turn, these second ruling planets, they were then deposed and replaced by another ruler of the heavens. Planets in our solar system and great comets that arrived were seen to be destroyed in great collisions or near encounters, and they were quite literally exploded and blown to pieces. Part of these destroyed planets arrived and were buried on our planet Earth. When two planets came close together, and the great gravity of one large planet captured another smaller planet as a moon, this was seen either as a combat, where one planet god overcame the other and took it as a prisoner, or alternatively it was interpreted as a larger male planet god marrying a smaller female planet god. Where a large planet destabilized another planet in a close encounter and caused it to explode, this event was seen as a combat, where one great planet god warrior killed his enemy. The existing planets and new arrivals into our solar system were believed to marry, to have children, to quarrel, to fight, and to war with each other, and sometimes to meet peacefully in conjunctions, as seen from Earth, and so travel together for a while. How did all this come to be astrology? Well, our ancestors were just as intelligent as we are. They may not have had all the marvellous electronic and mechanical tools that we have today, and they may have had to live in the more primitive lifestyles, but they were just as thoughtful, just as smart, just as inventive as we are today. Long, long ago, some genius in the northern hemisphere realised that the apparent movements of the sun followed a regular cycle. When the sun arrived at dawn, its furthest point north on the eastern horizon, then it was the height of summer. When the sun arrived later at its furthest point south on the eastern horizon, then it was the height or the depth of winter, and the cycle would recommence. Another genius noticed that the moon waxed and waned, and that this process took almost precisely 28 days. He also noted that there were approximately 13 waxings and waning of the moon in every annual sun cycle. Other geniuses noted that the birds, the animals, and the fish migrated and mated and routinely followed cyclical annual patterns. Perhaps more importantly, other geniuses saw that plants grew and died away annually at fairly precise times, and that the growing of crops could be planned to maximise the harvests. All that was necessary was to study the movements of the sun and the moon and to count the days. Then other men who were migratory and seafarers saw that it was necessary to know where they were when in the middle of formless deserts or far out to sea with no sight of land. These geniuses looked up at the heavens, and they saw the stars in the heavens appear to dance in a circle as they appear to revolve in an unceasing motion. It was only a matter of time before the axial point around which all the stars appeared to revolve was identified as Polaris, the pole star. And this discovery meant that some means of direction was available to the travellers of the deserts and mountains and the seafarers. Observation of the brightest stars in the heavens showed that the view presented by the heavens was also cyclic, and it differed as the days and seasons passed, before reappearing as it did every sun cycle of 365 days, or every 13 moon cycles of approximately 28 days. This was progress in a big way, and calculations of when to plough, when to plant or sow, and when to reap and gather the crops and fruits was vital knowledge, as was knowing when the fish would run, when the mackerel, the herrings and the cod would shoal, and when the salmon would run up river. Looking at the brightest stars individually was, however, not an easy task. And then some unknown, unrecorded genius had the wonderful idea of grouping together several bright stars that were in proximity to each other as identifiable group patterns. Looking for an identifiable pattern of a group of bright stars is easy. In this way, the process began to develop that has resulted in the well-known patterns that all of us know at least in part. The 7 stars of the Great Bear, also called the Big Dipper, or the Wain, the Cart or Chariot, and originally the Great Fold, and the nearby 7 stars of Little Bear, or ancient the Lesser Fold, and the 7 stars of the beautiful Orion, and the 5 stars of the W of Cassiopeia, and so on. Travellers on land and deserts and ocean voyages looked for these clearly defined star groups. Just when and who began to identify these star groups with the sea goat of Capricorn, the bull of Taurus, the ram of Aries, the branch and virgin of Virgo, the twins of Gemini and so on, is not certain. The ancient Egyptians saw the stars in the manner preserved in the Dendera zodiac, where an outer circle of identified star groups surrounds an inner path that spirals inward in decreasing orbits to finally arrive at Polaris. This is a story of a journey in the heavens. The ancient Etruscans saw the same pattern was preserved as the Magliano tablet, and the ancient Minoans also saw the same pattern as preserved in the Phaistos disc. The Etruscans and the Minoans actually appear to have known and recorded these star patterns as seen from both the northern and the southern hemispheres of our planet Earth, as the two sides of the Phaistos disc and the Magliano tablet appear to show. It was virtually a natural process that the moving stars, that are the planets, should be regarded as gods, and an equally natural evolution that the stories of national religions should be identified with and exhibited in the positions and identifications allotted to the various static star groups or constellations. Religion inevitably became entwined with astronomy, and the fact that heavenly commotions could have serious effects on planet Earth had to be taken into account. Comets, and particularly large comets, was regarded with fear, as it was known a small comet impact on Earth could cause great local calamities. Close encounters with large comets could also result in catastrophes, as debris from comets and their tails could wreak havoc and devastate whole nations, as happened to the powerful British state in 562 AD. The destruction and explosion of the planet Osiris caused debris to impact on planet Earth and become a central feature of Egyptian religion and history. Astronomy was an important and vital matter, and all nations supported those who studied the heavens. The logical outcome of all this was that the cartographers of the modern era, who took immediate advantage of the invention of modern printing in Europe in the 15th century, almost invariably began to produce star charts of the heavens that incorporated both the figures of the imagined star gods and the actual prominent stars. These charts are works of art, with drawings, paintings of the bears, Cephas the king on his throne, Andromeda chained to the rock, Perseus carrying the Medusa's head, the ship Argo, and so on. And within these paintings were set to major name stars. The unfortunate European obsession with all things Greek and Roman swayed the depiction of these imaginary figures in the heavens in the direction of Greek myth and legend, and thinking of the past tend to be confined into the records of Greece and Rome. Many modern writers see the development of the zodiacs and spirals of the heavenly figures as beginning with the Alexandrian cartographer Claudius Ptolemy, who produces Almagest around AD 150. And they mention references made by the Greek Hipparchus around 200 BC. But the existence of the Dendera zodiac and spiral carvings in the Temple of Dendera was built in the reigns of the Ptolemy pharaohs of 332 BC to 30 BC. And the oldest building on this site is a Memesi of Nectanebus, the first of 380 to 362 BC. Mitigates against this. The Phaistos disc, found on the 3rd July 1902 in the ruins of the Minoan Phaistos Palace by Dr. L. Pernier, also places the existence of heavenly zodiacs and spirals long before Hipparchus, and so does the Etruscan-led Magliano tablet. There is every likelihood that the ancient Chaldean, Babylonian, and the Hebrews all had pictorial ideas of the heavens, and biblical references appear to point to this. There is in the British Museum a sculpted stone that records the privileges granted to Riti Marduk by the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar I, that has carved upon it the animalistic sign of the zodiac, and this, along with a mass of other evidence in written cuneiform and on scenes from cylinder seals and statuary, proves beyond all question that the signs of the zodiac are in fact of Babylonian or even earlier origin. This means that our British Cymric ancestors would have been well aware of these signs and the stellar constellations that they represented before they began their journey from Armenia to Britain in 687 BC. The zodiac circle ran through the three celestial fields of heaven that were allotted to the god Ea in the west, that was associated with Amuru, to Anu in the south, associated with Elam, and to Bel in the centre, associated with the land of Akkad. The sculpture in the British Museum shows the three mansions of Ea, Anu, and Bel, and Nebuchadnezzar I is roughly dated around 1020 BC. So the old Syrians, who migrated into eastern Britain around 1600 BC, could well have known of the named star groups in the heavens. The creation myth of Babylonia avers that Bel made 3 stars for each month. An opinion is that there were 12 stars in Bel's central area, consisting of 4 major zodiacal stars and 8 supporters, and the same pattern of 4 major zodiac stars with 8 supporters applied to the fields of Ea and Anu. Modern schemes have 12 major zodiac identifications and 3 supporting or associated star signs allotted to each. This makes the numbers of 12, 24, twice 12, and 36 very important in astronomical numerology. The near identicality of the Babylonian zodiac signs with those of the much later Greeks that we still use today is indisputable. Scholars identified the Babylonian goatfish of Ea with the goatfish Capricorn. The god carrying a water urn matches with Aquarius, the water carrier. The fishtails in Canal match with Pikes, the 2 fishes. The labourer shepherd with Aries, the ram. The bull of heaven matches with Taurus, the bull. The faithful shepherd with the twins, with Gemini, the twins. The scorpion or crab with Cancer, the crab. The big dog or lion with Leo, the lion. And the goddess Sitar's corn matches with Virgo and holding her branch. And the balance matches with Libra, the scales. The scorpion of darkness matches with Scorpio, the scorpion. And the man-horse or man-scorpion, armed with a bow and arrows, is a match with Sagittarius, the horseman with the bow. Quite obviously, the ancient Babylonians had the Greek zodiac at 1100 BC, and very likely earlier. The summation is that every nation appears to have had the common idea that groups of prominent stars were representative of gods and other immortals, and that these representations formed a storyline of an ascent to or through the heavens by way of progress around the heavens through a circle, and then a continuing journey along an inward spiral path to the polar star. This continued into modern times, and Julius Schiller actually drew celestial picture and star charts of the heaven, where he depicted Hebrew and Christian Judaic figures instead of the conventional ancient Roman Greek pantheon. The 12 signs of the zodiac circle were painted as the 12 apostles of the Christian faith, instead of Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, Libra, Sagittarius, Leo, and so on. Hercules became the 3 magi. The heavenly crown became the crown of thorns. Argo became Noah's ark. Jesus the Nazarene became the sun, and his mother Mary the moon, whilst Cassiopeia became Mary Magdalene. Centaurus became the patriarchs Abraham and Isaac, and Indus and Pavo became Jacob, whilst Tucanon, the smaller Magellanic cloud, became the archangel Raphael. Many other scholars have interpreted the names of the ancient stars and constellations as linking to biblical references, and have interpreted the story in the stars as the prophecies and enactment of the drama of Jesus the Nazarene. There is an inherent danger of conflict in this interpretation, because it could easily be held that the actions of Jesus the Nazarene were a deliberate enactment of the well-known biblical prophecies and their solar and stellar links and associations. The main point of all this is that it's perfectly logical that the ancient British Cymry would use the same technique as every other ancient race and link their stories to the planets and stars, and it would also adhere to the same hermetic principle of as above, so below. Given the widespread plethora of ancient evidence that planets in our solar system were in near collision, and that planets changed their places in the order of things, and that some planets and great comets were destroyed, it is incomprehensible that there can be any dispute over this matter. The Marquis de Laplace got things horribly wrong, and the Church of Rome was preaching nonsense by claiming that it was impossible for any stones, meteorites, aerolites, comets, and comet debris to fall from the skies. The terror of murder by the Church, after a catalogue of unspeakable tortures by the Inquisition, terrified scientific minds into silent immobility for centuries, and the ancient records were labelled as pagan and heathen, and their truths were obliterated. More to come soon. Till the next time. Heddwch.